I was a Marine when the planes hit the tower. Thank you. Thank you. That's it. I'm out. All right. Thank you very much. As good as it's going to get. I was a Marine on active duty when the planes hit the towers on 9/11. And the course of that day would come to change the trajectory of my military career and indeed my life. I was a combat engineer. I was a platoon commander serving with a unit in Southern California. And 2 years later, when my unit crossed the border from Kuwait into Iraq in March of 2003, we were filled with purpose and mission. We were brothers and sisters who were united on a team and in a unit like no other, completely convicted that we were going to have a tremendous positive impact in the world. We accomplished our small piece of the mission in a corner of southern Iraq that time and sandstorms have now long erased. Then I redeployed home into my next duty station at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, where I would stay to finish out my time on active duty for the next 4 years. And on my last day on active duty, I took my uniform off for the last time. I folded it up, I put it on a shelf in my closet, and I immediately felt an emptiness that swallowed me whole. I didn't have any wounds from my time in Iraq, visible or invisible. I didn't need anything from the VA or from the multitude of generous organizations that stand ready to help veterans through their transition. In fact, it was the very feeling of being needed that I missed the most. I felt as though I had taken my purpose off when I took off my uniform. I was filled with so much passion, and I had so much potential, but no direction or momentum. And I would come to find out that I was not alone in this feeling. To give you some sense of scale, there are 250,000 men and women transitioning off of active duty every year. So that's the number of veterans that we're creating on an annual basis. And 40% of those veterans report feeling a lack of purpose when they transition. That's a lot of potential to leave sitting on a shelf. Josue Guerrero immigrated to the United States with his family when he was a small child. They fled from the cartels in Mexico, and they landed in Los Angeles, where, in his words, my clothes were wrong, my food was wrong, my skin color was wrong. Inside my home, we were Mexican, but inside my head, all I could hear was, be more American. Josue found community again in the Marine Corps, where, for better or worse, everyone is just green. People come together from all walks of life around common shared mission and purpose. Left, right, tall, short, black, white. And when Josue left the Marine Corps, he experienced the same sense of emptiness that I felt when I transitioned out of the military. But unfortunately, his emptiness led him to depression and a suicide attempt. All because he no longer felt needed. It really pains me to think about veterans like Josue languishing in communities across this country. People who are filled with such experience, they have such skill and passion, and they come home with a lack of purpose because they can't find their next mission. Meanwhile, our communities are languishing, falling further and further behind, engulfed by violent crime and poverty, and the divide that exists in our country grows deeper and wider by the day. In 2015, Josue found The Mission Continues, the organization that I now lead. And he finally felt powerful again. He was surrounded by men and women who shared his passion for continued service. And they were pointing him in the direction of greatest impact, which for him was the community of Watts in LA. Josue is still serving tirelessly with us now, and you'll be very glad to know that his story is a good news story. He came to us to get the skills and the experience that he needed to continue his service in Los Angeles. We pointed him in the right direction, and he took it from there. For 12 years now, The Mission Continues has been connecting veterans with opportunities to continue their service in under-resourced communities. We're working in 56 cities across this country and growing. Last year, hundreds of veterans and non-veterans and community members joined Josue in Watts for a week of intensive service that we call our mass deployment. For one full week, we capture the best parts of a military deployment: the teamwork, the connectedness, the hyper-focus on a mission and purpose. Over the course of a week, we refurbished basketball courts and teachers' lounges. We landscaped 4 full city blocks. We built sensory gardens and outdoor classrooms, all in a show of positive force that brought people together around something that they could agree on, which I don't think we have enough of in this country today. Veterans are community members. We come from communities across this country, and it is right back to those communities that we will return. But we do return changed. We come home with a feeling of confidence that you have when you've just done something really hard. Then we look around for the next hard thing that we can tackle. Combating poverty and violent crime in Watts is hard. Solving some of our toughest community challenges, that's hard. We're looking for our next mission. And it's the hard that makes it so great. So here's the punchline. We need to open the aperture on what we consider to be a veteran issue. Veterans are powerful levers for social change. With the amount of trust and social capital that our country puts in veterans right now, today, it is just good business to have veterans leading in efforts and tackling really tough and complex problems in our communities and in our companies. We are more than the one-dimensional view that so many Americans have of us, the square-jawed, type A, white male. That's not me. We're more than our backgrounds suggest: national security and a focus on veteran health care and the VA. We are passionate advocates for community, for civic engagement, mental health reform, because if we can solve a suicide epidemic for veterans, we can solve it for everybody. We are passionate advocates for the environment, gun safety, equity, and inclusion. We are women, LGBTQ, racial and ethnic minorities who have endured and thrived in an environment where we were the only. And we've come through that better and stronger and ready to fight for equality and representation. But above all of that, we have more than proven that we are deeply invested in this country and its highest ideals. And that does not stop when we take off our uniforms. So, if you have a challenge that you need to solve in your company, on your team, in your boardroom, if you need someone to run for school board in your community, or coach the Bad News Bears Little League team back to glory, or combat poverty and violent crime on the south side of Chicago, call a veteran. We're out there looking for our next mission, and the harder it is, the better. Thank you.